Welcome to Macon Memories. I'm Lynda Wright at Randolph-Macon College. Today is February 22nd, 2013, and today I'm interviewing Zelda Boston-Woolfolk and Mike Woolfolk. Zelda, we'll start with you, and if you'll tell us where you grew up and how you happened to come to Randolph-Macon.
Thanks, Linda. I actually grew up in Petersburg, Virginia, and I came to Randolph-Macon. It was actually I think, a labor of love from my father and my high school counselor. They actually got together to try to determine what would be a really good fit for me, and Randolph-Macon was one of the colleges that they selected, and basically my parents decided that they thought it would be the best one for me to come to, so that's how I got here.
How about you, Mike?
I grew up in a little place about 20 miles from here in Caroline County called Frog Level, a little small rural area. I came to Macon. I knew it was a good school, and I just kind of wanted to stay close to home at the time. I was the youngest of 10, so I just kind of wanted to stay home and close to home. So.
Well, the college at that time had very few African American students. So, how did you feel about coming and being, a member of quite a small minority?
Actually, I didn't even really have a concept for how many African American students were here versus, how many white. The main thing was that the college offered me a very good scholarship package, and I think that was really the deciding factor as far as where my parents thought would be the best place for me, and where I ended up coming.
I also didn't know the racial makeup at the time. Also, I came here playing football, and there was a few African Americans on the team at the time. But I didn't know how the entire population was at the time. It didn't seem like it was a big deal to me at that time either. So I kind of just blended in, and I lived so close to Randolph-Macon. It was more like home anyway. So
It was familiar.
yes, for me, yes.
Yeah, good. Can you describe what it was like when you first came on campus? Do you remember, just the excitement of that freshman year moving in and that sort of thing, and who your roommates were? You want to talk a little bit about that?
It was, the first day here, it was just very exciting. I lived in Mary Branch, so it was that beautiful fountain out there. The college campus, I thought, was simply beautiful. And, we were just really excited to be here. It was really the first time that I would say that I had been away from home. So that itself was exciting. I think immediately I met Yvonne Wallace, who's now Yvonne Brandon, and a couple of other people, African-American students that were already here, that made me feel really welcomed. And it was just an exciting time.
When I arrived on campus, being on the football team, we came here in August, actually before school opened, and my roommate for that night was Roger Brown. We were opponents in high school. We were in the same district. I played football against him and ran track against him, and then we became, still to this day, we're best of friends and stuff.
So that made it easy to.
Oh yes, especially that first night. I really haven't stayed away from home that much growing up, so I was kind of, but that made it a lot easier.
Did the football team give you, a community? Was that a?
Yeah, football became more almost like a little fraternity, blacks and whites. They treated me. I've never felt any hostility, anything different being on the team because you're part of a team. So.
And who was the coach at that time?
Keller.
Keller.
Yes.
Yes. And so he really built that community up with the guys would have to be close.
Yes.
Good. Well, how about academics? Talk about your majors or which classes and professors were important to you.
I was a Romance languages major, so Spanish and French. When I first came to the college, my advisor at the time was actually one of the German professors, and I did end up taking German while I was here. one year as well. And academics was, very important to me. For the most part, that's what I did here at Macon, was study. We used to always have a joke. Drusilla Winston was my roommate, and we lived in Mary Branch, and our room was right on the front. And people used to always say, no matter what time of the day or night that they came past there, our lights were on. And that was pretty much true, because when I wasn't studying, she was studying, and vice versa. So academics was very important. I wanted to make sure that I could maintain my scholarship, and I pretty much studied all the time, with the exception of one outlet, which was cheerleading.
Oh, good. You were a cheerleader and you were a football player.
Yeah.
That's the storybook. Okay.
Yeah,
Good.
but being the romance language major, I had Dr. Chalice, and I can't remember the other Spanish professor at the time. For French, like Sue Carroll and Betty Lou Backlar. And I never actually had German under Dr. Barrett, but I had German under Dr. Noe.
Okay, when I started, I had Dr. AC. He was my academic advisor. He was more laid back and made you feel comfortable, because my first year, my study habits weren't the best, so I was on academic probation. And another person that was instrumental was my roommate, Horace Butler. He was a definite bookworm, very, very bright. And I kind of piggybacked off of him some of his habits. And by my senior year, I had everything down pretty good. So.
You were psychology major.
Sociology.
Sociology.
Yes.
Okay. Uh-huh.
And he was a computer science major. So.
So he helped you. So you
Yeah.
all both had roommates or influences that were good
Yes.
as far as studying.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think one of the professors that was very instrumental in helping all of the black students here was Dr. Panel
Oh yes.
and his wife.
Yes.
They made sure that they made us feel comfortable. They would just go out of their way, it seemed, to really embrace us here at the college. And I just still remember them quite fondly.
I think another is kind of a little twist on it. Just the people, the African Americans that actually worked here. You became,
Talk about that.
Yeah.
Yes.
I've heard so many people
yes,
say that.
Miss Emma. What's
Yes.
her name? Miss Emma. Okay.
I
She
think
worked,
so. I can't.
yeah, she worked in the cafeteria. She was very strict. She was like a mother figure, but she was very loving. And Lester, he was the jokester. He joked with us. It was almost like having family. I mean, a familiar face type
Yes,
family
yes.
here, where you can, in a small town. So they were, and some of the guys, even the guy that would fix my room, I actually knew him before I even came here, and then I knew kind of, and he was almost like having a friend coming there every day you could talk to and stuff like that. So
Right.
that made
Yeah.
things easier.
I've heard so many people say that the staff,
Yeah.
In fact, Dr. Brandon this morning was saying when they were arriving on campus, I think it was Mr. Henry in the print shop, James Henry.
Right, Mr.
that
Henry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
introduced himself to her parents.
Yeah.
And, it's just sort of putting him at ease. So I think that was welcoming.
Yes, Lee
That's-
Talaferro.
Right,
And
that's
the guy that
right.
actually did the lines for the field, I can't think of his name. Boys with a safari hat, I can remember, but I can't think of his name.
Skinner?
No, I can't remember his name. Yes,
Tom Proctor.
that's it.
Tom
Yeah,
Proctor,
yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And being local, some of the people actually knew my family, so they knew my dad,
Oh.
mom. My mom worked locally here. She did domestic work, so I actually worked with the sons of one of the sons of one of the people in school, Billy Flowers and stuff like that. My mom actually worked for them when I was growing up, so.
Oh, okay. Well, then you had to be on your toes.
Yeah.
Because the word would get back home.
Yeah, I guess it would.
So now, and talk about eating. Were you part of the group that ate dinner together in the cafeteria?
Yeah,
Bob
we kind of,
Randall's?
because we were roommates together, so most of the time we met at the same time. We ate at the same tables and stuff like that. So it's more of an unconscious type thing. We just that's the way we did it. And so.
Right, because after my first year living in Mary Branch, we actually started living in the motel dorms. Like I was in Jones, and so we had suite mates, and so we all had,
Yeah.
you know, we all still lived very, very close together and everything. And so, like Michael is saying, it was just a matter of habit.
Yeah.
When you got ready to go to dinner, we all went together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, she indicated that it was somewhat of an intentional thing that a lot of the African American students would sit together and make a point of meeting together in the evening for a meal and that kind of thing. It was just a lot of support there.
We were talking just last night. We said for 4 years of here, we can make almost every class we took, we were the only African American in there, maybe.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
Well, we never thought of it until last night. I said we never realized that, but it didn't seem like a big deal though.
So you didn't feel like, oh my goodness, I'm really
No.
really
No,
isolated here. You
it didn't seem like to me. It didn't. I'm not sure.
No.
Mhm. It was just that was the class that you were in. The class you were just part of the makeup and
Yeah.
whatever. Did you ever have experiences with faculty that were negative because you were African American in the class or other students?
I don't think so. At least while I was here, I never felt that way. Now, in retrospect, you know, I can possibly think of some incidents where now, you know, I would question whether or not the way such and such was graded or whatever had anything to do with my race as opposed to, you know, the actual grade that I should have gotten or something like that. But again, that's just from having to come back and really take a look at things. The other thing too was, I think when I came in, it was probably like the third year that women were here. So you had to think about too whether or not, if there were any differences, you know, was it because you were a woman or was it because you were a black woman, or did it have to do with, you know, with both? But pretty much, you know, we just, at least I did just continue to work really hard, and I really didn't let race be a issue that I really concentrated a whole lot on. Like I said, again, it's just after looking back on things now that I question.
Mm-hmm. But if you weren't feeling it at that time, I wouldn't second guess yourself. You know, you think you would have had a sense if it had been very severe. Or
I think that even if it had have been, then I would not have allowed myself to really concentrate on that, because I think that had I, you know, maybe looked at it more closely or thought those things, that I think that it would have affected how, you know, positive I was, or, you know, I may have developed an attitude or something like that, and that just wasn't the way I was.
It wouldn't have been helpful.
No, it wouldn't have been helpful.
Yeah, I never felt any racial pressures or anything. That's why I was pretty fairly judged and treated in my class by my professors. You know, nothing different than any other student. I didn't feel.
Good.
So.
Good. Was there much activism on campus when you were here in the late 70s? You know, the civil rights movement had been really about 10 years earlier than that. The big, you know, pushes on campuses. But I didn't know if there was much activism on campus. Do you recall?
I don't recall. It was what, less than 20 of us here at that time, I think so.
Right.
I can't remember any. I don't remember any type of activism type issues.
No, I don't remember any either. I remember, for example, Yvonne and like Jerry Ross and all like them actually telling us some stories about some things, you know, like sit-ins or something that had happened. We saw some pictures in the old yearbook about a sit-in for something or another. But while we were here,
they even had some like even Black History Month activities and stuff like that. I remember we had some little programs and different types of things.
You do remember having those?
Yes.
Well, that was forward thinking then, because that Black History Month hadn't been around that long at that time, I don't think.
I remember us having something.
And see, you remember better than I
Yeah.
do, because I don't remember it specifically being for Black History
Mm-hmm.
Month, and it probably was. But I know that there was, I guess it was this way, whenever there was someone on campus that was Black, whether I can remember one year a Black pianist was here. You know, it was a big thing because we didn't really see that many other Black professionals here.
And the
Black
one year
professors
we had the
we
one year
didn't
we had
see.
the colloquy courses.
Yes,
Dr.
there was a
Kinney.
colloquy course one year where we had a Black professor.
Dr. Kinney. Yeah, yes, he's still local. He's a minister here around here.
Right.
Do you know his first name?
I can't remember
But
his.
he's a local
It might be John.
clergyman.
It might be
Okay.
Yeah.
John Kinney.
Yep. But yeah, so whenever there was anyone, or I can't remember if it was when we were here or it was after we graduated. Like for example, the Harlem's Boys Choir was here.
It was after.
That was after.
Yeah.
But anytime,
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
you know,
Right.
there was a Black personality on campus, it was a big deal.
And you remember the Black pianist that came? Do you remember any other situations like that when?
That one month, it was a local Black actress that came. She was in some had done some
There
work. But I
was-
can't remember. I
And
know I
there
don't
was a
remember her name.
lecturer one time
Yeah.
that came. I can't think of the name.
And there were no Black faculty at that time.
No,
I believe when you
No.
were here.
no.
Probably very few women. B.J. Seymour came in, I guess, 71, 72. But were there many? There weren't many women faculty. Too many, were there? Or by the time you came,
There probably wasn't
Miss
that many. I
Miss-
guess being with Romance languages, you know, there was
you
the
just named two,
two.
didn't you?
Miss Pamela.
Yeah, Sue Carroll and Betty Lou Bakelar.
I had a lady for a business
French.
course, but I can't remember her name toward my junior or senior year. But I can't remember her name.
My biology teacher was a woman. I want to say her last name was Dementi
Pat
because,
Dementi,
yes, she
Uh-huh.
was. And I ended up years later when I started working for C&P Telephone. It was actually her nephew or
Oh.
cousin or I can't remember what the relationship was, but he was a Dementi and he knew her, of course, and we kind of talked about Randolph Macon.
And Dr. Albert Hughes, she was one of my classmates. I think she's still a professor here.
Yes, she is.
Yes.
She's a psychology
Yes.
professor. So she was. You all overlapped then, right?
Yeah, she was more.
Right,
on
because
my-
she
I was a
came
year- I
in
was a year
several
behind her,
years
yeah.
later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's class of 81, I
Yeah.
think.
Mhm.
Right. Let's see. As part of, you said there were only about 13 or 20, African American students when you were here. Did you feel like that everybody on campus knew who you were? And did you feel scrutinized, or did you feel like maybe that was an icebreaker? Like it was a good thing that people,
For me, because I remember when I was here, for the most part there were 9 people. I think one year we had 13.
Okay.
And not sure how many there were at the end of the year. There still weren't that many. I think people knew me maybe because I was a cheerleader, and I know they knew Michael because of being
Yeah, he's
a
from
football
football, yeah,
player and one of the star players. But
And the weirdest thing is just walking in, we saw maybe 5, 6 blacks, and they said, and it was just like in the first few minutes just getting out of the car, and it's like,
Yeah, our minority student population is excellent, and we have a lot of diversity on campus. It is really a
good.
healthy place in that way. Which is why I think this story is so great to tell, because you're counting on your fingers and toes, and
And
it's really
the oddest thing is, I was originally was going to Virginia State, which was probably polar opposite.
yes.
I mean, race wise. So,
Yes.
and I ended up here. So,
Were you offense or defense in the football team?
offense.
Oh, okay, so you were the scorer, and they.
Yeah, my roommate was a quarterback, and one of my suite mates was one of the other running backs and everything. So,
Okay. All right. Very good. And you were cheering them on. Everybody. That's great. Well, how did you tell me about how you two met And did you date while you were on campus? Or
We were just
together
good. We,
later?
we were just good friends. It was mostly after college that
Oh,
we dated and everything. So.
Right. When you're talking about, other blacks being on campus, well, one of the things we really looked forward to, we didn't really go to frat parties a lot, but there were some frats that had some of the best bands
Yeah.
that came, and a lot of them were African American bands,
Yeah.
and or mixed.
Right.
And Michael and I, because Michael had a girlfriend at home, so we did not date, but we did partner with dancing.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
yeah.
we
Yeah.
would, go to the frat party, or if there was a party in the gym or something like that, and great music, we were dance partners.
Well, so you were did you feel welcome at the fraternity parties? Then there wasn't tension about
No,
for
that-
socializing.
It was very, very loose at the frat parties. So,
Oh,
a lot of people, they wouldn't talk to you in the daytime because they had a few drinks. They would talk to you. They don't know who you are.
Come on.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, no, the frat parties were very nice, I thought. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's good that was a welcoming, because that's the main, at that time especially, was one of the main outlets for social life on campus. So if you had been excluded from that, that would have been a real
No, they were
problem.
always welcome.
That's good. And music, in that time really was one of the ways that one of the first ways blacks and whites as teenagers got together was
Yeah.
through music. So they,
Right in the middle,
bands and
right in the
then-
middle of the disco and the beach music.
Yeah. So if the band, that music was bringing people together. That's good. Let's see. Was there ever a time when you felt like you wanted to leave Randolph Macon? Did you ever consider dropping out or transferring?
I didn't.
No.
No. Once
You
I
were in
got past,
football.
once I got past the first couple of years, I knew I wanted to finish. So
And you played football all 4 years.
yes.
Okay, so you had that grounded in a niche in a community.
Yes.
Yeah. And you were a good student, so I'm sure.
Yeah,
He's a very
I
good
never
student.
thought. Yeah, I never thought about leaving. Like I said before, academics was really what I was mostly concentrating on, and I felt like I wouldn't have even considered it because it would have been such a disappointment to my parents.
Mm-hmm.
So I never even thought that. I just kept on working really hard to try to make sure that I could, make the grades to stay and to get on the dean's list or the president's list or whatever, because they would print that in the local newspaper and my dad would cut it out.
Yeah. So
So
you were both really on track when you got here, and
Yes.
had your heads down and were doing. You may have just told me this, and I might have forgotten. But did either of you work on campus? Have work study jobs?
She did.
I did. I worked in one of the administration offices. I can't think of now who the lady was. It might have been Miss Moss or something like that. The same office that Yvonne actually worked in too. I think she got me in there.
Oh, in the treasurer's office. She told me she worked in the treasurer's office, business office.
Business office,
Yes.
exactly.
Okay.
So I worked in there, and then I also did babysitting. They had, I guess, different people who needed babysitters within the community, and so they would reach out to folks who had put on there that they wanted some work.
Mhm.
So I worked for a couple of people. I think Miss, oh gosh, I can't think of her name now because I think she ended up actually working here or teaching here. I can't think of her name. And then there was another family that I worked for. They used to pick me up. It was me and was another girl, Asian student, and we would alternate weekends that we would work for this family, and they would come pick us up because they lived further out.
Right.
And that was one of the things about being here on campus. I mean, I pretty much always stayed on campus because I didn't have a car, and Ashland wasn't really developed like it is now. I don't even think we had a fast food restaurant until
McDonald's was like your maybe your junior or senior year maybe.
yeah, senior year. I
That's
think
the one.
Pizza Hut or McDonald's, came up. So I was pretty much stuck here.
Yeah.
You know.
I went home every weekend. because I was so close. So
Did you have a car?
no, I never had a car till I was out of college before I had my first car.
Did you take a bus? Or did you
I had relatives. My mom and some relatives worked here in Ashland, so I would either catch them home and then they'd bring me back on Monday morning for my class.
And you had that hometown girlfriend, so you had to go home.
Yeah, I had to go home.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So that kept you busy.
Yeah.
Let's talk about a bit about Ashland, though. What was the relationship of the town and the students? I understand there might have been some tension in the town, in the college students generally, and did you feel it particularly as African American students, or not, or was the town welcoming? I mean, what was your relationship?
See, I grew up. Ashland was town. When I was very young, we'd come to Ashland to trick or treat because back in the rural area, houses were so far apart, and my mom knew a lot of people here in Ashland, so that's why we did our trick or treating.
So this was really an extension of your home way.
Yes.
So you felt very comfortable here, and did you know people in town?
Oh yeah. I have a brother lives maybe 3-4 miles from here. And he's been here all his life, pretty much in Ashland. So.
Was he here at the time you were a student?
Yes, he's always been in Ashland.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So you had even family close by.
Yeah. Oh
you
yes.
could call on if you needed.
Oh yes. Yes.
So you were really at home.
Yes.
How about you, Zelda? Did you have any sense of the relationship? How it was in Ashland? You said you stayed here all the time because you had a car. Did you move around Ashland freely and happily?
I would walk to the, I guess it was the one shopping center, Henry Clay Shopping Center. I'd walk there, kind of, walk around a couple of things. I think there was the
ice cream shop.
Oh yeah,
and the
we
movie
went
theater.
to Mayberry's, and I think there was a record shop or something that was actually over in the shopping center with Henry Clay. And other than that, and walking to the bank, and occasionally going to the supermarket that was the little market that was across the railroad tracks. I don't even think I went to the brothers pizza place because they used to come around to the dorms and cousins and would bring the subs and
night.
all. But no, other than that, occasionally I was pretty much here. Randolph Macon was it, and the students that were here, and my roommates, my suite mates, the other students that we knew. I mean, they were my family while I was here.
And she was the only child. I'm the youngest of 10.
Oh, wow. That's very different in growing up experiences.
Yeah, so I was kind of used to solitude,
Right.
And then too, Petersburg. I mean, that wasn't really a big booming city, so it was small.
Did you go home much? Could you catch the bus home or anything like that, or did you just pretty much stay here unless it was a holiday?
I pretty much stayed here and only went home, for holidays or breaks or whatever. Every now and then there was one other student that was here who his parents, I can't remember, I don't think they were in Petersburg, but were close to Petersburg, and I think I caught a ride with him one time to go home. And then I do believe I did take one time the train, I think it was, the train, I think, to go home one time. But, it was such a quick turnaround, so, no.
Let's see, do you, either of you, when you think about your high schools you came from, did either of you have friends from your high school environment who also went to predominantly white institutions? Did you have any comrades who were going similar paths?
I can't recall any right off the bat, no.
Yeah. And most of my really close friends ended up going to Virginia State, and they would occasionally come up here. In fact, one time, one of my good friends ended up being a music major at Virginia State, and I was singing in one of the talent contests that they had here, and he was my pianist, and so they all came up. But I did have other friends that went to predominantly white colleges, yeah.
Did you ever compare experiences with them? I mean, did you...
I really didn't. I really didn't.
So you didn't look at your experience that way.
No.
So,
I looked at this experience as I was having an opportunity to go to college and graduate. That was my whole thought at the time. Again, now, as you know, when I look back, I think about some things that I wish could have been different or that I'd done differently. But at the time, my focus was being here, getting the grades, and graduating.
Well, you did.
Yeah.
How about you?
I was first to go to college in my family. I had no one actually had never talked to anybody about college life, so I didn't know what to expect or anything. I didn't have any other people that went to school with me. I think they went to any predominantly white colleges that I could compare it with, though. So it was all new to me. So
you said you almost went to Virginia State.
yes.
But then you decided to come here.
Yes, because first they weren't. I wasn't qualified because I hadn't taken any foreign language, and they made an exception, and I had to take 2 years of it while I was here. So, but I took 2 years of German with Dr. Noe. So that was my guidance counselor told me one day. So that's how I ended up here. So this was actually my first choice. So
it was your first choice.
yes.
And was that because Coach Keller was recruiting you, or
He
or
actually.
you were from that? You like
I never really got recruited that hard. I don't think I was planning on coming here. I wanted to play some football. I didn't know what it was like or anything. But I only met Coach Keller maybe one time before I came here, and I came here on an academic scholarship. I don't think they were even giving athletic scholarships that much back then.
No, they don't.
Yeah.
They still don't.
They don't. Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Division.
Yeah.
You're in.
And then I lost some of that when I being on academic probation my first year, so I had to get on if I wanted to continue to play. That was my driving force pretty much.
Yeah,
and then once yes.
Right. That's great. Well, are there any particular memories or anecdotes or stories you remember about your days here that you'd like to share? You're both chuckling, so I think that might be yes.
I think some of my best time is going to the movies together. I even remember the movies we not with the girls. I saw one of my best. We saw Jaws with a couple friends.
Oh,
The
yeah.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre when we came back and our RA was messing with us. Just
Scared everybody.
oh yeah. So that's pretty much most. And always the frat parties and the dances were always nice, just to take you away from everything.
Did you go to the movie right down here in the street, the Ashland Theater?
Yeah, right there. But it's on there where the Mayberry used to be on that little corner, and the theater was I think it's right next to the post office where it is now. I'm not sure. Everything's changed.
Yes, the theater's still there, but it's not in operation as a theater. And then the ice cream, is the ice cream where the Welcome Center is now?
It's this road that takes you out here. Is the last little building on the left where you get to the England Street.
Right. Okay, that might have been when the ice cream across from the church, kind of beside the church, across the street from the.
I think it is. Yeah.
That's now part of the kids.
Yeah. I remember being thrown in the fountain
Oh my goodness.
in front of Mary Branch. I don't know if they still do this, but they used to put bubbles in that fountain, and the bubbles would be going all around. And in fact, somewhere there's still a picture, but a couple of the football players, Sanford Morgan. Let me see. I think basketball player. I think Danny Connor was in there too, and I can't remember who else. But yes, they picked me up and put me in the fountain. I remember that. I have a picture somewhere. But it was all fun. So I guess most of the things that I remember does, it has to do either with just the I'm going to call it the sisterhood, with Yvonne and Drusilla, who was my roommate, and Gladys, and 1 year a girl by the name of Dee Dee was here, and she was my roommate, and there was Alvin down at the motel dorm, and again, all of the football, basketball players, whether it was Jerry Ross or Mike Love or, Danny Connor, Dave Chavis, all of these. I mean, like I said, I can probably I probably just named all of them.
Yes, yes.
But we were just really close. Even if we were at odds for some reason or another, there was the feeling that if there was a problem, they would have your back. And again, because I was the only child or whatever, it wasn't like I had brothers and sisters. These were the brothers and sisters that I never had, and I felt very close to them. And there were good times and there were bad times, sometimes. And there were, I really can't name, a lot of bad times here on campus. There were some things that I can remember with being a cheerleader. There was one year when there was only one black basketball player, and there was one black cheerleader. Right. And I can't remember where we went, but they called us Tommy and Thomasina, so that's, it was kind of like, that was the other team, right, the other school, right. And it was kind of like, that was like, when it kind of hit you that, oh, yeah, okay.
Right, so the other team, so
it was the other.
It wasn't Randolph.
No, it wasn't Randolph Macon. It wasn't Randolph Macon. But I think that sometimes, when we went to play or whatever, it was kind of an oddity to see, how few of us there were.
Yeah.
But yeah, you just really didn't notice it. I mean, for me, it was mostly good times here and a lot of studying.
Mm-hmm. That sounds like a healthy combination for college years.
I was just thinking about it was only one black student that really didn't hang with us. It was Rendell. Rosier. I think he was just older.
Right. He was older and ex-military.
Rosier. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think he just passed not too long ago. He was a chaplain in the Navy, because I just read the little things that used to come out. But I think he passed away a couple of years ago. So, but I know he seemed older than us, and more mature than us too.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So. And there was, I remember there was one other student. He was, wasn't he African? What was his name?
Yeah, I forgot that.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I can't think of his name. Yeah, he was an African student, and I remember because back then the thing was the big afros. Like, he had a big afro, and when this student came, and I cannot believe, I see his face and I cannot think of his name, but when he came, his hair, he didn't have an afro, and I remember the brothers taking him to get a blowout. And you remember that?
I don't remember that.
And that maybe you weren't even here that year. It could have been my freshman year. Yeah. They took him to get a blowout. Mike Love and...
Okay, so I wasn't here with Mike Love.
Okay. Yeah, so he wasn't here with them.
I met him.
I remember Mike Love, and I can't remember who else, if it was Dave or Jerry or whoever. And they took him to get a blowout. So he could have a big afro.
That's funny. I was just looking to see if I recognize that name.
The guys, the other thing is that the guys used to always joke. They would call Yvonne Mother Duck. Yeah. And they would say that all of us followed behind her.
They did.
She was like the leader.
She was the leader.
She was the leader, and they claimed that all of the rest of us just followed behind her. And they said, "There's Mother Duck with her,
So her leadership ability had come out at an early age.
Yes, she was.
She's really a very important.
Yeah.
Position.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So then you graduated. So when did you two get together? How years after you graduated?
Yeah, it was a couple of years, because she was working out in Norfolk in the night, kind of. We thought she wrote me. Mm-hmm. Yeah, she wrote me because she thought I was going to go pro play football. She said, I later found this out. She thought you could get some free tickets.
Yeah, that's why I asked him. I wanted some free tickets, when he went pro.
And she sent a photo, and I said, I have to go down and see her.
Oh, that's good.
And then she ended up getting transferred back to Richmond, right? So.
And what were you doing in Norfolk? What was your career at that time?
I took a job with CMP Telephone Company. When I graduated, I had big dreams that I was going to be an interpreter or something at the UN. And of course that didn't happen. And I'm like all of the college students now that are coming out. When I came out, I really could not find a job, and I kept looking. I had applied at the telephone company, and I was going to actually teach part-time and go to VCU. I got accepted to their MBA program. And then right about the time when all of that was going to start, I got an offer for a job in Norfolk with CMP Telephone Company. The worst decision I ever made in retrospect, but I was they called it force administration assistant, where we basically had to figure out how many people were needed, how many operators were needed every minute of the day to handle the traffic or the call volumes.
You were going part-time ODU also, right?
I ended up, after I worked in that job for about a year, I applied to ODU for their MBA program and got in their program and was working towards my MBA. And then I had an opportunity to come back to Richmond, which I did because I, wanted to be back here to help my parents. And I came back in another job with the company. And let's see, if I make it until September of this year, I would have been, between CMP, Bell Atlantic, AT&T, and now Verizon, 35 years.
With the telephone, communications, I guess they say that.
Telecommunications. I'm now a system administrator and database administrator.
Wonderful. That's excellent. And so what did you do? You didn't go pro football.
No,
so,
I actually broke my
He
neck.
broke his neck.
My senior year against James.
Yeah.
Yeah, chipped my vertebrae against James Madison. They technically a broken neck. I didn't have to wear a halo or anything. I had to wear like a little thing for about 6 weeks. And
you weren't flat on your back or anything?
Oh no paralysis or anything like that. But technically it was chipped the vertebrae. I landed on my head wrong, and that pretty much ended that. So.
And you were playing James Madison.
Yes,
so we were in a different.
They weren't as big as they were.
Right.
Yeah, they moved up since then.
Wow. So you broke your neck senior year. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So then, did that throw you off as far as your academics, or where do you?
No. It actually helped me because I didn't have to had more time to concentrate on my academics. So.
The thing was, he had been approached, wasn't it your junior year, by the
scouts
Bengals
had talked
to
and
go
I got a letter from them, and a couple of scouts came down just to time me and everything. So it was a long shot either way. So.
Yeah. So what did you end up doing after graduation?
I worked at GE for a little while more, and then from there I went to it was Bank of Virginia at the time. Eventually ended up as Capital One.
Right.
So I'd been with them since, but pretty much off and on since '82. And outsourced. Right now I'm back with Capital One as a third-party contractor. So been back and forth different places, mostly IT type stuff.
No, so you're both doing IT.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Systems work. Well,
yes.
Good. You're very high tech. That's good. Good. Well, anything else you'd like to add or share about your time at Randolph-Macon?
I can't think of anything right offhand.
You've got a good memory.
He does. He has a good memory with.
Our first grandson turns 1 Sunday, so.
Excellent. So, future Yellow Jacket, maybe?
Oh, we don't know.
My oldest son, he's at Vanderbilt at grad school. Boston. His name is Boston. We have a Boston and a Logan. Has nothing to do with the city of Boston.
Oh,
Yes,
okay. So he's okay, but he didn't come here.
No, he went to UVA.
And
then he did
Teach for America
for 3 years.
in Brownsville, Texas.
Now he's at Vanderbilt.
In education?
Spanish and Portuguese.
Oh, he's after his mother.
Yeah, that's good.
He's actually in a doctoral program, but I don't think he's going to stay there. He doesn't think he wants to be a professor, So I think he's going to come back after he finishes this year with the master's degree. And my younger son, he's the singer and the dancer. After the high school, he went to community college, but he ended up with some medical issues, and which made it kind of difficult for him to continue. And so he, had to come out, and then he went back, and everybody else had passed him. So I think he just decided that it wasn't for him. So we still have hopes, however, that he will go back.
He's the one that if he's focused on something, he's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
But if he doesn't want to do it, you're not going to get much out of it. So
Right.
we've seen him like
Right.
acting and things like that where he's wanted to do, and it's amazing the stuff we see him do. So
Right. Yeah. Yeah, but I don't know. I think that it was a wonderful experience. And even though there were so few of us, I didn't really. It didn't really matter, or it wasn't an issue. I was used to going to mostly white schools anyway. But I think that, and I like the cheerleading and a few other activities I was in. I was inducted into Omicron Delta Kappa, and but one of the things was that I wish, again in retrospect, that I would have taken advantage of everything that this college had to offer, because I think that even back then there was probably more that it offered that I just didn't know about. Maybe my advisor didn't, let me know that there were some other opportunities, because I would have loved to have studied abroad, being a language major, but I don't remember that ever being an opportunity that was afforded to me. But I don't necessarily blame the advisor, because I think that, some of that, should have been on me, that I should have demanded almost, some other opportunities.
So much. I mean, it's such a big part of the college experience for kids today.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't when we were coming along.
Mm-hmm.
It was. I mean, people could do it, but it was the unusual student who did that. Whereas
Right,
now,
and very
especially
expensive.
with our J term here, so many of our students can travel because of our what you call
colloquy.
Colloquy.
We have
Mm-hmm.
J term. It's a short,
Mm-hmm.
course, and a lot of our students get to travel, on a 2-week trip with a course. So it wasn't a whole semester. It makes it more affordable, but just more practical for your academics too. Your pre-med,
Right.
you can't necessarily spend a semester in France. You've got so many requirements. So nowadays, they all do so
I know,
much travel.
I know.
It makes us envious.
The
I
thing
mean, I
that
wish I could have
I regret
done
more.
that.
I wish I was more focused, had more of a role model. I envy some of the kids come out of school now, out of high school, and they already know what type of engineer or person they want to be.
Right.
I didn't have that direction. I was always saying, I don't really know what I want to do. I want to graduate, but I don't know what the.
And that was like what I was gonna say. It, I don't know. Maybe the opportunities weren't here, but we didn't have, other than ourselves, for the most part, we really didn't have that kind of support. Maybe that would have helped us to move in the direction that we wanted to move into, because we all had dreams. We, all had ambitions or whatever, but I think that we needed, I know for myself, I was very naive. I really do believe that, and I think that I just could have used a better support system from the school to help me to be more focused, because I was an excellent student, and I just felt like I should have been able to do something really great that Randolph-Macon would be real proud of, you know, and that I would be real proud of as well. But back then, I think it's probably here now. I would love to go here now. But back then, you know, it was a nuance.
Yes, and it was a more traditional curriculum, and you came in and you did your coursework. Whereas now, like I say, they have all of these internship opportunities and
Right,
study
right.
abroad opportunities,
Mm-hmm.
independent research.
Yeah, I
which
see the
you
little-
probably
Yep.
would have loved.
Yeah, I see the
Mhm.
it's like a quarterly periodical they send out, and I see all the different
Yes.
things they're doing. And
So, the curriculum has more flexibility for things like that.
Yeah.
You would have eaten up, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
Um, That's, you know, but you were a trailblazer, so you know the others come behind to the smooth highway
Right.
that you know that you two have prepared the way.
Well,
so
and
think of it
that's
like
good.
that.
That's
Yeah.
good. I mean, you know, and I'm glad that you're doing this, because maybe it does give other students an opportunity to see what we, you know, went through, and maybe they can stand on our shoulders now
Mhm.
to maybe reach higher heights. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much,
Thank
both
you.
of you, for coming today.
Welcome.
Thanks for
Thank you.
inviting us.